Hello and welcome to the United Stand. This is your latest Manchester United transfer news where we give it that real fan opinion. And I don't normally start off with this sort of thing, but I'm going to do it. Steve Nicol, the ex-Liverpool player cretin, has on the ESPN podcast said this about Anthony Martial. How long has he been at United? 3 or 4 years? For a guy with so much talent, he's still a bit part player, and he's got the cheek to moan and complain that he doesn't play, but yet on the training field and in games, he looks disinterested. I think basically it's down to too much money, too early, and too much dough sitting in the bank. What an absolute pillock comment. I'm sorry, I get it. I get this enough. I get called out enough about my opinion, so I'm going to call that out. What? He's been paid to do that. He gets paid to come out with that ignorant opinion about a Manchester United player when you're an ex-Liverpool player and you're talking nonsense about what he does on the pitch and the training pitch and looking moody and talking nonsense about it's too much too soon and too much money in the bank. What an idiotic comment to make by an ex-Liverpool player who's got no clue about what's going on at Manchester United. It really riles me up. I'll listen to a Manchester United fan talk about Martial, but I will not listen to an ex-bloody Liverpool player do it and who's talking out of his backside. I mean, for God's sake, too much too soon, too much money in the bank. What a bitter ex-player comment that was. Just because you played in the 80s and there was no money there, stop having a pop at the youth of today. And as for the other one, he looks moody and disinterested. My life! If you knew anything about Anthony Martial, you'd know that he's quite a quiet, withdrawn, introverted character. And that is probably why he looks quiet and hashtag moody on the pitch. Because he's a shy lad. Leave him alone. Do you think that sort of thing helps, you bitter bully? Total and utter nonsense about one of our players. But people will pick that up and read it and take it as gospel. It really, really irritates me. The reality is, it's not too much too soon and too much money in the bank. And he's not a bit part player. He was Van Gaal's best player in his first year, and for 6 months of last season, he was our best outfield player. We signed Alexis Sanchez, he got dropped. It was nothing to do with attitude or anything like that. Mourinho preferred Alexis Sanchez. That's Mourinho's problem. That was it. Up until then, Martial was brilliant, and that's why he wants to leave. Do your bloody research, you ex-Liverpool cretin. Anyway, on with the transfer show. I've got that off my chest. Thank you, everybody. Manchester United transfer news. Let's crack on with it. Well, Martial, we'll come back to that. There is something a little bit about Martial, but let's start off with Ousmane Dembele. Now, Malcolm has gone from Everton to Roma to Barcelona, and he's now officially a Barcelona player. Now, a lot of Manchester United fans are thinking that means Willian to Manchester United, and it may well do that. But there is an interesting thing I read last night about Man City may have jumped the gun a little bit by getting Mahrez because suddenly Ousmane Dembele is available. There's been a lot of thought that Dembele would be available this summer anyway because he's a little bit uncertain about his future at Barcelona and not particularly happy. Didn't get a lot of time in the World Cup, although he officially is a World Cup winner. Didn't get a lot of time at Barcelona last year and is potentially available now that Malcolm's gone there. So Dembele, Manchester United, what are your thoughts on that? Well, personally, I wanted him. We mentioned him last summer. I do like him. He's quick, he's young, he's got that development curve, he can be one of the best, and he's right-sided. He'd be very good, very, very good. I don't see it happening for Manchester United for many reasons. One, there's a question mark over his attitude. Two, he's a development player. Three, he's basically Anthony Martial, and we've seen how that worked out with Jose Mourinho. And when I say he's basically Anthony Martial, I don't mean they're the same sort of player, but their career paths and where they are in their careers are very, very similar. Coming off a bit of a frustrating season at Barcelona, young, needs to do better and needs to basically have an arm around him and be trusted. And I don't think that's what Jose would do. And also, let's not forget, Barcelona spent £135 million on him a year ago. They're not going to let him go for anything less than 100. So I don't see him coming to Manchester United at all, but in a different sort of circumstances, I'd welcome him with open arms. I just don't think we will be in for him. As simple as that. Talking of Anthony Martial, because he keeps getting mentioned, I just want to get this out of the way very, very quickly. Richarlison has gone to Everton for 45 million. There is talk that Manchester United are pleased by that because it means if they do sell Martial to Bayern Munich or wherever they sell him, they can easily demand 70 million based on the fact that Richarlison's going to Everton for 45 and Martial's clearly a better player. So they should be able to push up around the 70, 80 million mark, which is apparently what they would need for Martial. I'm worried about Martial. I've been worried about Martial for months. I do think he'll go. That's just my personal opinion. I don't want it to happen. We'll deal with it if and when it does happen. Thiago was mentioned yesterday. Again, I think it was ESPN saying that Thiago is available and Manchester United and Chelsea are chasing him. I like Thiago. I think he's 27. He should have come to United. He was basically coming to Manchester United when David Moyes was manager. Moyes just dillied and dallied and Bayern Munich took him away. A good player, very good player, very technical player, can play any of the midfield positions, very good on the ball. In some ways, unfortunate to leave Barcelona because of the midfield quality they had at the time. Similar sort of things happened to him at Bayern Munich. He probably would walk into a Manchester United midfield. I think he'd be very well suited to Man City, and I wouldn't be surprised if Man City had a bit of that, to be honest, now that they've not got Jorginho. But I don't see Manchester United going for Thiago. It doesn't make sense to me because if your midfield three is Matic, Pogba and Fred, why do you sign Thiago? He's a bench player at Bayern Munich with a bit of first team in there. At Manchester United, again, where would he fit in? And I've got to be honest, he's better than Pereira. But from what I've seen of Pereira, for someone in their early 20s, I think I would rather, because Thiago's going to come in and be a bench player, I'd rather not spend that money on Thiago and have Pereira as the bench player. I don't see a massive amount of difference. And actually, developing Pereira is what Manchester United should be about. And he looks really good. He looks like he's really learnt from his 2 years in Spain. So I don't want Thiago. He's not the sort of midfielder that I would want us to bring in, and I don't think that we need him when we've got Pereira. So hopefully there's nothing in that. I don't think there's anything in it anyway. It doesn't make sense to me. Again, he's not really a Jose Mourinho midfielder anyway. He's not particularly tall. He has similarities to a lot of the midfielders we've got, like Fred, Pereira and Herrera to a lesser extent. It's just not. Again, this would be a signing that would make no sense because it doesn't fix the problems we need to fix. Centre back, left back, right midfielder. Another midfielder's nice and Thiago's a good player, but we need to fix some glaring issues in our team before we start making nice signings. Vidal, worth a mention as well. Again, lots of talk about Vidal, been left behind by Bayern Munich. He is recovering from a knee injury and Manchester United have been linked. Again, I like Vidal and he would offer something different that Thiago wouldn't. Now, Vidal would offer something different and Vidal would make a little bit more sense because he's in his early 30s. You wouldn't expect him to be a starter, but he'd certainly be a good backup for Matic to just drop into that midfield and other midfield areas if we wanted to. And if you could get him for about 30, 25 million, he probably would be a good signing because he's a very, very good player. So I'd be more welcome to Thiago coming to Manchester United. Sorry, Vidal coming to Manchester United than I would be Thiago. But I don't think we'll do it. I think the Manchester United had their fingers burnt with Bayern Munich and a player of 31 before who had injury problems around their knee, and that was Schweinsteiger. So I think we'd be reluctant to do that again. Having said that, Vidal, Chile, Sanchez, Chile, maybe it could be something to make Sanchez. They've got to make Sanchez work next season, and that might be something that they think, you know what, Vidal ticks a lot of boxes. He's very experienced. He's a good backup for Matic. He's an international. He's one of the best midfielders in the world if we can get him fit. And also he's got a good friendship with Sanchez that might make Sanchez a better player. So it could work. And for 25 million, it would be a clever move. So I wouldn't say never, but I think it is unlikely. Skriniar is there for a simple reason. Javier Ribalto, who is the head scout who's now gone to St. Petersburg, there was an article in the Manchester Evening News yesterday, I think it was Manchester Evening News actually, saying that he had highlighted a number of centre-backs for Manchester United to go this summer. Skriniar was one, Milan Skriniar at Inter Milan. The Milan centre-backs, Bonucci and Ramagnelli, who I get his name wrong all the time. Koulibaly at Napoli. Jimenez from Atletico Madrid was mentioned as well. Some really good quality centre-backs. And the point is how have we now ended up with Harry Maguire being the number one target. Now, I'm not convinced about Harry Maguire coming to Manchester United because Jose Mourinho in his press conference yesterday mentioned Harry Maguire playing for Leicester in the first game. Well, if he plays for Leicester in the first game, he's not coming to Manchester United because the transfer window's closed. And it could have been a throwaway comment, but it made me think, are we in for Harry Maguire? I would take Harry Maguire over Phil Jones playing as a centre-back for Manchester United. To be honest with you, I would take, any centre-back over Phil Jones at Manchester United, to be honest with you. Harry Maguire's good. He played well in the World Cup, and he played pretty much the same for England for Leicester last season. But I do have a little bit of concern about Harry Maguire, because I just think, is he any better than Lindelof and Bailly, really? Is he markedly better than those two players that Jose bought? And that is the thing. I feel if we're going to sign a centre-back, it's got to be one of those centre-backs that I've just mentioned. Your Skriniars, you know, the real top talent that's out there. And Harry Maguire could be that. But is he really better than Lindelof and Bailly? And is it worth spending 50, 60 million pounds on a player that's not massively better than the two that we've got? Having said that, the flip side is he actually going to play Lindelof and Bailly, or will it be Bailly and Jones? In which case, get Maguire in, because it means no Jones, which is the point. Willian and Rebic. Yes. Good comment I read yesterday about Willian, and somebody likened him to Nani, and I thought what a good comparison that is, because if people can't remember what Nani was like at Manchester United, on his day he was really good, but his day was probably 30% of the time, and he was infuriatingly inconsistent. On his day he was unplayable, but he was not on his day as much as he was not on his day more than he was on his day, and that worries me about Willian. As I said yesterday, it's how much we're going to pay for a 30-year-old who is massively inconsistent. And I think United have too many players who are inconsistent. What you want is a consistent performer. And who on their day may not be as good as Willian, but they'll give you more 8 out of 10 days than Willian will give you 9 out of 10 days. So that's why I think, I don't think we can do Perisic, but that's why I would go for Perisic over Willian. Rebic gets mentioned. I think the path is now clear for Manchester United to sign Willian, though. And how many times have I said it through this transfer window? I just think that Jose Mourinho knows Willian, loves Willian loves Mourinho. And like Matic last year, I think it's his go-to card, that he knows that he can sign him anytime he wants in the last week of the transfer window, drop him straight into his team and trust him. And I think that is a signing that may be causing Jose Mourinho some frustration at the moment, because there may be some resistance from the club to say, we're not spending £50 million on a 30-year-old. And Jose's like, that's the player I want. And I think that could well be part of the frustration. And it depends which side you sit on there. Would you rather have no right midfielder, or would you rather have a 30-year-old for 50 million that's overpriced and inconsistent in Willian? And I don't know where I sit on that. I mean, I've done videos on Willian. I do like Willian, and probably a year, definitely 2 years ago, I would have took him. But at his age now, and he seems to be becoming more and more inconsistent, I just don't know. I don't know. And what worries me about Manchester United is, if it goes the way that people think it's going to go, and Jose's going to get the sack, what's the new manager going to inherit? He's going to inherit Sanchez, Willian, Matic, all 30, and young Valencia touching the mid-30s, and Fellaini's 31 this year. You know, so many old players that for Jose, in the short term, he's what he wanted. But what does it mean in a 2 or 3 years' time if this season is a bad season? So I'd rather we went younger, but it's not really the Jose way, is it? Which is why I don't think we'll be in for Dembele. Anyway, get your comments in below. What do you think about my rant at the start? Oh, Steve Nicol, you little sod. Dembele, Thiago, Vidal, the centre-back situation. Willian, give us your thoughts. I mean, would you take Dembele at Manchester United? Do you think he's the sort of player we should go for? I mean, you know, that's a relevant question. Thiago or Vidal, that's the one I want to know. Which one would you go with? And anything else you've got to talk about as well. Please do drop a like on the video. I hope you enjoyed and empathised with my rant at the start. I'm feeling a lot better this morning now. Back at 8 o'clock tonight, unless something happens in the day. And of course, early hours of tomorrow morning, we've got Milan versus Manchester United watch along. Looking forward to that as well. Have a great day. I'll speak to you all soon.